Greg Jenkins is a military veteran, having previously served as a military police officer in the United States Army. He is also the founder of the nonprofit American Veterans Emergency Response Team, an organization that helps homeless veterans get back on their feet and prevents veteran suicide. In this clip, Greg shares a personal story that happened down in Florida, where he helped an elderly Vietnam veteran escape a situation that could best be described as elder abuse. So I hope you enjoyed the clip. I hope you like and subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, I hope you head over to vetert.com to support the work of Greg Jenkins there. Thank you.
See, I saved veterans in crisis being held hostage in their own home. They've done news articles about me, and I may have shared them with you in Florida. We were kicked in the doors of a veteran being held hostage in the garage of his own home, being fed under the door like a dog.
Tell me about that one. I think when I first met you, that was one of the first stories you shared with me, where it was an elderly veteran, essentially living in a trailer with
No, he lived in his own home.
Or in his own home.
Yeah,
okay.
But they had put him in the garage on a mattress on the floor. And they were feeding him under the door like a dog. And they had the cabinets and refrigerators, everything locked up from the veteran. He was basically held hostage for 5 years in his own home by his own caretaker, and nobody ever checked on him. The VA representative, fiduciary, the VA assigned fiduciary would call and check on the status by phone, but the caretaker would say everything is okay, and no one ever came to save the veteran. One day I was looking at a house to buy and from a preacher man, and he had to go. I said, "Where are you going?" They said, "I'm going to check on one of my parishioners that hasn't showed up for church." Matter of fact, he's a veteran, Greg. You help veterans. Would you go with me? And that's when I was introduced to Stanley situation, and I was included in that trip to his location. Those two church guys were scared to go in, so I went in, ended up extracting the veteran physically under guns being held to my head, extracting the veteran out of the situation. I took him to the VA services office and asked to use the phone to report to the sheriff the hostage situation, and they told me the phone was not for public use. I said, "Ma'am, we need to call 911. She said, "It's not for public use." So we drove him to the sheriff's department, and they sent in the officers and arrested the individuals and prosecuted them. And we took Stanley into a safe house and rehabbed him and reconditioned him and reintroduced him back to his own home. It took months of canine therapy, of mental therapy, of veteran therapy, brother therapy, to convince him to go back home and to reestablish his life. And the way we did it was, he had a girlfriend when he was in kindergarten that he remembered that was a nurse now, and she agreed to be his caretaker. And we flew her in to Florida, and she started caretaking for him, and they ultimately got married, and he lived the rest of his life with her until he passed away, I think, in 2021.
How old was this gentleman? When
he was the 70s.
In the 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we went in under threat of my life, under threat of they said they were going to kill my whole family. They were going to kill me. They were using him for his benefits. They would steal his VA pension. They would steal his prescriptions. They would steal his food, his personal family heirlooms. They stole everything, sold it. They had a drug problem, and they were fueling that drug problem with his resources. And they had moved in.
Stealing his medication?
Yeah. Wow. Stealing everything from him and selling it. And making money to fuel their own drug addiction. And moved in their own family members, took over the whole place, blacked out all the windows, chains and bars on the doors, and basically they said they were going to kill me. I told them they'd have to kill me because I wasn't going to leave without him. And I just picked him up and extracted him out backwards and got him into the vehicle, and then we got out of there. But the situation is that I'm the guy that has to go in and do that in the trenches. That's in the trenches.
Yeah.
That's in the trenches. You know, the Appalachian Trail is in the trenches. You know, coming in after a hurricane, setting up camp, that's in the trenches. And so I've been in the trenches, you know, training these dogs, saving these veterans' lives, and doing the things that these nonprofits should be doing all this time. They're getting billions in funding, and they're prioritizing illegal aliens, crackheads, and convicts over our American warriors. So Greg steps up. I've contributed millions of dollars to what we've done.